Welcome back to the special edition of Hannity, and I'm joined by a bipartisan group of college students, some recent grads, half are Republican, half are Democrat, no topic off limits. All right, let me go back to the debt and deficit. Some of you want big government. You want your health care taken care of by the government, right? Some of you, but then you've got this other problem. We have $90 trillion in unfunded liabilities. It's unsustainable. You've all studied math. You all went to good colleges. You got to balance this. Help me out between paying all that money back and getting the government you say you want that you believe in. Go ahead.
Now, I just want to say one thing about how our country has been run in the last 5 years. So first of all, we were hit by the Great Recession. So when you are hit by a Great Recession, the worst thing to do is have an austerity plan. It is cut budgets. That is the worst thing to do. This
According
is basic 101 Keynesian economics. What you have to do is you have to actually invest in the economy. Now, the surplus.
What about the stimulus? Did that create jobs?
The stimulus created more than 3.5 million jobs. That's nonpartisan congressional budget analysis.
4.5.
You know, without the stimulus, it wouldn't have been a recession. It would have been a depression.
We have the lowest labor participation rate, and of all the jobs, some 70% of them are part-time jobs that pay minimum wages. I mean, listen, I know.
The Democrats are in favor of that.
Many employers to get out of requirements of the law are actually taking people who are full-time and making them part-time.
Exactly.
I mean, that ruins
and
it.
And that is unfortunate. I would like to win. Thank you for bringing that up, Princeton, Republican from Princeton. It's really unfortunate when you see universities or private institutions trying to get around these regulations that are clearly designed to help the working class. I think that President Obama has proposed an extremely reasonable plan of debt reduction that involves cuts to spending, but what President Obama and the Democratic Party are not willing to do is balance the budget on the backs of the poor and the working class.
Can I ask you a question? You say this, and I'm listening in with fascination.
Okay.
He's the only president to ever give us $1 trillion debt. In 1 year, deficit in 1 year.
George W. Bush?
No, George W. Bush's last year was $458 billion. And not only did he do it once, he did it 4 times. He's almost, by the time he leaves office, he will have doubled the debt this country has. He was complaining about $10 trillion. Now it's $17 trillion. Well, how do you say he's making deficit reduction?
I think that one thing we have to keep in mind is that when President Obama took office in 2008, after 8 years of kind of shaky economic policies under George W. Bush, we saw an economy in free fall.
5 years later, you're going to blame Bush?
We shrunk
He's had 5 years to
of the
fix
GDP.
this.
And Sean, we have to look
5
We were
years.
losing jobs at a rate of 750,000 a month.
All right, Berkeley, come on.
Look, this was the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. Of course, it's going to take longer than 5 years. And actually, we've come a really long way. We started at a peak of 10.1% unemployment, and now we're down to 7.4%
We have fewer
unemployment.
people. Wait a minute. Let me give you some other numbers, economic numbers. We have doubled the number of Americans on food stamps. We have more people on welfare than we've ever had since the Great Depression. Okay? We have the lowest labor participation rate that we've ever had. And you're telling me the economy's better. We have 1 in 5 children in America in poverty, 1 in 6 Americans in poverty. What has Obama done to fix it? What? Go ahead.
Okay, so first of all, why are Republicans then saying that we should be cutting $20 billion in food stamps? Why are they saying that we should be cutting desperately needed assistance to the poor?
Okay, you want to answer that?
I got to say 2 things. First of all, you say, of course, it's going to take more than 5.5 years. Obama said if he didn't have it done in 4 years, he wouldn't run for a second term, and unfortunately, he didn't cash in on that. Second of all, I just want to point out, shout out to Ohio here. Governor John Kasich turned an $8 billion deficit into a $1.87 surplus, if I'm not mistaken. Unemployment since he took office went from 9 to 7.2%, which is below the national average. And people are still trying to give credit to Obama for that. But
you want to answer that?
Well, I actually was going to point out that under Governor Jerry Brown, a $26 billion deficit in California turned into a budget surplus. No one expected that except Californians who were actually able to pass a tax increase on themselves in order to fund education.
All right, so it's a 40% top rate nationally for income tax. California's
35%.
California's 39%. California's 13.5%. So that raises an important question that we'll ask in the next segment. How much is too much to pay in taxes? We'll take a break. We'll come back. More of our bipartisan group of incredibly bright and talented college students as we continue.